Well, today's first reading and gospel reading are about leprosy. And honestly, in today's modern world, leprosy is curable. It's not that common anymore, and it's pretty curable. They can clean it up if you get it early, and you can, even if you get it late, that you can have a healthy, functioning life. But up until about the 1920s, that wasn't true anywhere around the world. Even in the time of Moses, 2,000 years BC, they knew this about leprosy. If a leper touched you, or you touched a leopard, or you touched something that the leper had touched, you could get leprosy. There was no cure. The person who got leprosy would be outcast. That couldn't be more striking in Leviticus how it is said. He said, "He shall declare himself unclean, since he's in fact unclean, and shall dwell apart, making his abode outside the camp." He cannot live with the other people. You have to go to a separate place. In Jesus' day, it usually was a leper village. Leper colonies existed all around the globe. One of the most famous ones was the island of Molokai in Hawaii. If you have traveled to Hawaii, chances are you probably did not go to the island of Molokai. That was the leper colony. Read about the story of Father Damien, priest of the lepers, Saint Damien. But when we live today in 2021, leprosy is just something, for history, I suppose. However, this past year, we have had an experience that can make us appreciate leprosy. COVID. And this is what I mean by that. If you had a loved one in a nursing home during COVID, you couldn't go into the nursing home and see that loved one. You could not go and see them. You were barred from the door. You literally, if you were lucky and they had a window outside, you could stand outside the window and wave, but you could not go inside. If you had a loved one with COVID in the hospital, you could not go and see them. You were barred from going to see them. They had to be apart. And that is something that people are simply not going to forget. I know of people whose loved ones died of this and they weren't able to be with them because of the restrictions on COVID. You couldn't be there with your loved one. And when your loved one got better and was able to go home, everyone was grateful that they were better, but they were equally, if not more, grateful to have them back home. So you could be with your loved one again and laugh with them and share the time with them and have a meal with them and live together again, whether it be a parent or a child or a spouse. If you went through that experience, then you truly can understand this man who's made clean. If Jesus was telling this parable today, it would be that man would be COVID, and Jesus would cure him, and he'd be able to go home. And if you went through that experience, you can understand what it is to have someone back in your life who was apart from you because of a disease. And that's why I think today these readings hit home. Because for the first time in my priesthood, I think most of the people now have an understanding what this really happens, how this really works. And then we can appreciate the fact that Jesus breaks down those boundaries and brings people together again. And when we think about people who have loved ones who are still ill, or still housebound, and we think what we can do for them, and of course we can pray for them. And when I think of all the people who, and we've had more now than ever in my priesthood, people with pyxis coming down and taking hosts to their loved ones who still aren't able to come to church or still too afraid because of the COVID to come to church, and they're watching us online, which is great, but I can't give someone communion online. And I know that so many of you take communion to your loved ones, and by doing so, you're giving that person not only the body of Christ, but you're giving them the hope that Christ brings, the hope that this too will pass, that this separation will end, and we'll be together again as spouses, parents and children, and the loved ones, and as a faith community, as Jesus intends us to be, fully and completely, absolutely, the day we all arrive in the heavenly kingdom.